All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Coleman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have my latest guest here in front of me, Fiona. All right, Fiona, I suppose say hello to the listeners.
Hey guys, would you like me to introduce myself?
Most certainly, I want you to give your elevator pitch in relation to what you do and who you are and where you're based.
Fantastic. So my name is Fiona Staunton. My business is Fiona's Food for Life, and I make cooking good food uncomplicated. So I do this through live cooking in real time, either virtual or say in the workplace where I bring in my kitchen. And the idea being if you taste, smell and see something, you are much more likely to make it yourself. Or if you see it, say on screen and you can ask questions and you can see everything step by step. I mean, I don't even peel a carrot or chop an onion or do anything like that before the beginning. All I do is I have the ingredients ready, and as I go, I share everything.
Absolutely love that. I suppose I want to know, how did you, get into health and trying to, improve your, lifestyle in itself?
Well, Coleman, I was always into food. And when I finished in school, I did a degree in home economics teaching in Trinity. And then I went to Ballymaloe Cookery School. I did their course. And then I worked for a year in Ballymaloe House as a chef under Rory O'Connell. And then I set up my own catering business in Dublin, and then headed off to Australia. Fast forward, had a child, came back. And then about 7 years ago, I love helping people with a problem, particularly around food. So if they say, oh, this person eats this and they're allergic to that, what can I cook? And I don't have time. That's what I love, helping people solve those problems and making cooking from scratch easy and accessible and to nourish yourself. So I've been doing that for about 7 years now, and I'd be very much into, I cook from scratch all the time, fermented foods, etc. And then during lockdown, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had a mastectomy and hormone therapy, which put me into an induced menopause overnight. So all of those symptoms you hear about, I literally got the whole lot all overnight. And so that really made me focus in on what nutrients we can have in menopause to help us. So I was lucky. I already had the healthy diet and lifestyle heading into that disaster, shall we call it.
I just want to, bring it back there just a tiny bit. You were talking about fermented foods and how important. I love the fact that how good they are for our overall gut health. What do you, issues do you come into contact with some of your clients, and what fermented foods do you recommend, and what are their benefits, just for the listeners to expand on that point?
No problem. Well, it sounds like I'd say we could keep talking about this all day, but so a lot of the time I would have clients who would come to me who have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or some other digestive issue. And they might have been told by a doctor or nutritional therapist or dietitian that they should be having probiotic foods. So probiotic foods, the natural ones, they are nature's probiotics, which we can create ourselves. And it has so many different effects on the digestive system. I could keep going all day, but I suppose the practical side of it is where I'll talk to you about it today. So an example, yogurt is an example of one. So long as it says live yogurt on it, or it lists the cultures on the ingredients in the back, that's a really good source. But there's other ones. We've got like miso, sauerkraut and kimchi. So all of those beautiful organic vegetables that you show everyone to grow, they are perfect when you've got surplus of those. There's so many fabulous ways you can do it. I mean, I chop up, during the summer, I do one where I would blitz up white cabbage, kale, pineapple, mint, loads of different things like that. And they'll put a bit of salt on them, massage them all, let all of the lactic acid bacteria build up. And I would make this lovely sauerkraut that I call it my summer kraut, and I have that in a jar, and you can use it for months. So any day you don't have vegetables, you haven't got things prepared, take a spoon of that, put it on the side with your omelette, in with a burger, so many different things. Kimchi is another one, which is, I use a Chinese leaf, and it's slightly spicy. So I use the gochugaru spice with that, and I like to put in a bit of Irish seaweed into it to give it, rather than the fish sauce, to give it a bit of an Irish twang. And then that one you kind of massage in a paste onto that, and it's really quite a pong from the jar of that kimchi. But that is lovely with eggs. And then you might look at something like a kefir. So I do two types of kefir: a milk kefir, which is a kefir is a grain which is comes from the Caucasian mountains between Russia and Europe. It has thousands of years of history. And what I would do is I would put the grain with a bit of organic milk, and it ferments like a thickish yogurt. And that is amazing. I mean, that's the easiest and probably the most powerful probiotic that you can make at home. It's lovely on a muesli, in a smoothie, so many different ways, or into lovely ice pops we're recording this during the heat wave we have. So kefir ice pops are fantastic, where I blend it up with a bit of fruit and freeze it. And then it's beautiful, refreshing for your gut health. And the other one will be water kefir, where it's a slightly different grain, but you have a sugar water and you have organic lemon and dried fruit. And ideally, the grains are going to absorb all of the sugar and ferment, and they make a naturally bubbly, beautiful, chilled, refreshing drink. So that's my short synopsis on fermentation.
I just love that. I could listen to and talk to you about gut health all day. And I love that you're making it from scratch. And I suppose that's your whole niche, that you're doing it on a regular basis and trying to make it for as simple as people to do the same thing. Because once you start putting that to practice, you gain. People who cook from scratch typically are much healthier. Why? Because they're inevitably going to then eat it. And then if you have children or you have other family members or partners, you inevitably have a knock-on effect to their overall health.
Absolutely. And you can't store the probiotics. So the important thing is to have them throughout the day, every day. It's not like you can just have it all on a Monday and you're sorted for the week. So it is important to try and build it in slowly, but regularly. It's fantastic.
With, I suppose, gut health, we're just on now on the, a lot of people suffering with IBS and irritable bowel syndrome. Are there certain times and certain specific foods, such as maybe yogurt, to try and improve the gut line that you would recommend to people?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a huge array, because sourdough can also be good, really good. This is a natural sourdough now, one that I'm talking that you will make yourself, and it's all wild yeast in it. That can help heal and seal your gut. But there's a variety. So if I were to give you an example, in the morning, I might have a smoothie where I put the kefir into it. Then at lunchtime, I might have eggs with a bit of kimchi and sourdough bread. Then in the evening, I'll always have a jar of sauerkraut out. During the winter, a lovely cup of miso soup would be, that you, like we would have done bovril back in the day. So you dissolve it in 3/4 boiling, 1/4 cold water, and you've got a beautiful drink. So there's so many different ways. You could have tempeh, loads of different ways that you can have it. The idea is just trying to mix in a little bit, and also what works for you. For example, if you can't have dairy, you might be able to try the coconut milk kefir, and then every third or fourth batch you'd need to just put the cow's milk kefir into it, so that it will, or cow's milk into the kefir, so that it'll keep it happy. But there's, depending on what your diet and what you follow, there's loads of different options that you can have.
Would you yourself have a particular preference towards people going more plant-based, or having, I suppose, the standard diet inclusive of eggs, meat and dairy?
I would be the latter, but I will be kind of plant focused. So half of my plate is always going to be fruit and vegetables, and then whole grain and protein. Personally, I eat absolutely everything, and I love my oily fish and I love my eggs. But I understand there's different preferences for people. So, and that's what I do with my recipes. I tend to have variations, so that if you are following a particular diet and that is your choice, or your medical guidance, then you can easily adapt the recipes and do that. So yeah.
And everyone is completely different, and I would have a similar preference to yourself, that understanding foods that suit you and you digest well is very important. Because if you're picking a diet just because you've seen someone on social media and it doesn't suit you or your lifestyle or your particular area that you're in and your gut, that's going to cause poor gut health, and poor gut health leads to poor health, and then that's linked with, I suppose, low energy levels and other major issues further down the line.
Yeah, and just to be careful, in case anyone is deciding that, great, I'm going to start the fermented foods now, you need to start slowly. So, for example, anyone in my house could easily have a large kefir smoothie, no problem. But if you're not used to it, you start slowly with a tablespoon, either a tablespoon of kefir or a tablespoon of sauerkraut, so that your gut gets used to it. It would just be shocked if you put it all, too much in too quickly.
And that actually happened to myself, and I suppose everyone is learning as we go along. As we were talking about, I suppose, before the likes of this podcast recording, I would have, I suppose, yes, oh, now I've read about and listened to podcasts and all these books and information I've consumed. Oh, fermented foods all the way, improve 90% of my serotonin produced in my gut, 70% of my immune system. I started having the likes of apple cider vinegar with my breakfast. I was having sourdough bread. I was having kefir. I was having kombucha. And as a result of that, I had an overabundance of fermented food, and which are high histamine. And I started to get, I suppose, shorter breath because it was acting up on my likes of my lung capacity. So it's something that I suppose something that everyone should small doses and build up your tolerance. So it's just like
Yeah,
running a
usually
marathon.
your bowel movements will give you a good indication whether you've got too much or not. So
And that's very interesting. I suppose we all have to, I suppose, incrementally improve and add in small amounts at a time. I want to, suppose, bring it and lean it towards this area. The topic of this podcast is maybe the perimenopause and the menopause. Suppose we could expand on what those are for people to start off the basics, and we can get deeper in towards it.
sure. Well, one of the things that you might know is menopause is actually one day. Okay, so menopause is the anniversary of 12 months of no period. So that's what menopause is, actually one day. Perimenopause is the time leading up to menopause, and that could be 8 to 10 years, minimum 1 year, obviously, but it could be as high as 8 to 10 years. And then after that, you've got postmenopause. So perimenopause symptoms can start from mid-30s. So even if you're having regular periods, you can still have perimenopause symptoms. So they might be things like night sweats or hot flushes or a loss of confidence or brain fog or joint pain. So there's like nearly 40 different symptoms you can have, and they can just start at any stage. Sometimes it can happen really early, but generally once you get to 40, you should be aware of these to keep an eye out for them. And then what happens is your estrogen during perimenopause, your estrogen and your progesterone levels will shift hugely. So they'll be up and down. And then once you're in menopause, your estrogen levels are dropped. And that is what is going to change things. So when we gain weight around the middle, those fat cells are there to produce estrogen. So they're helping our body compensate for the estrogen that we used to be used to, but no longer have. And so there's lots of different symptoms that we will have, and it's just being aware of them all. The more edge, and it's different for everyone. Okay, it's absolutely different for everyone, and you've got to just try and work with what it is for your body. But there's lots of ways through your diet and lifestyle that you can do, and then you can also see medical practitioners, etc., to go further to support yourself and thrive through menopause.
And I suppose you were mentioning on the likes of estrogen in the body building up. Are there foods that you recommend to take out at certain times for particular women, such as maybe soya or dairy, even at that fact?
So soy isn't, there were some studies. Soy is safe to consume. I know there have been different studies at different times. I would always refer to a dietitian and show what they have, their evidence-based. The soy is actually fine. So the foods I particularly look at, particularly for me, because I have to take blockers of estrogen. So I cannot have, my cancer is aggressive, fed on estrogen. So I cannot have any estrogen. So I'm looking for all those effects. I'm missing those, the brain fog, all those different things that I have because I don't have any estrogen. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the foods. Phytoestrogens are plant chemicals, and they mimic estrogen in the body. For someone like me with hormone positive cancer, I'm allowed to take those, but I mean, you always just check with your own oncologist. So phytoestrogens, if you think of flax seeds, soy, lentils, they're 3 easy examples of foods that you can include in your daily diet that could mimic estrogen in your body. So I have looked into it in terms of the soy. So I for example, isoflavin is the one that you would get in soy, and I can't take that in a supplement form, but from food I can have it, no problem. I would want to take tons of it in the food for it to be making the same effect as the supplement, but they're my friends. So soy, I love particularly in soy, the unprocessed soy, as in the edamame bean, the young baby soybean. I think that's absolutely brilliant. You can add it into smoothies, I add it into salads, you can make a dip with it. There's stir fries, curry berries. So many different ways you can use them, and always have them in the freezer ready to go, or you can actually buy them in tins or containers now. Flax seeds are fantastic. Now, we can't actually digest flax seeds. So if you're having whole flax seeds on top of your porridge or your cereal, yogurt, or whatever, that's fantastic. It will help keep you regular, but you won't get the omega-3 and the other nutrients and the phytoestrogens that we're looking for from them. So I get them ground, or sometimes you can have a mixture of both. So that's, I make a beautiful flaxseed chocolate bar with dates and nuts and flax seeds all bound together with chocolate and coconut on top, and it's really, really nice. And you just know when you're having that one small square, it is just loaded with nutrients, so it's really good to nourish you. And lentils, big fan of lentils. So I do it at this in the summertime. I will do a lentil salad where you can either cook the green lentils or puy lentils, or you drain them, rinse it, and then I will add in capers, lemon zest and juice, olive oil, pepper, salt, a bit of onions, and top it off with chopped nuts, and you've got a fantastic organic cherry tomatoes that you'll have grown yourself. And you add it in and you've got a great salad. Or wintertime, I'll do something more like a red lentil dal. So those type of foods are really good. In terms of avoiding dairy, I personally wouldn't, but if there's individual, if that's what you've been steered towards, then that's absolutely fine. But just make sure you are getting calcium from somewhere else, because your estrogen is dropping, and you're going to need to make sure you have enough calcium for your bone density going forward.
And you recommend calcium coming from the likes of greens, or what other, I suppose, food sources would you recommend for that exact?
Okay, so if you're not having it from dairy, if you can have tin sardines, that will be fantastic, because you're getting all of the bones through that.
We can mention Shimes, because they're extremely beneficial, and we both enjoy the two of those products, and they're an Irish-based product based in Killybegs.
I love them. I mean, it's less than €2. Less than €2 a tin, and I have the sardines and mackerels there in a tin, and then I will have the lentil salad or whatever salad I made the night before, and there's my lunch ready to go. So the calcium from there, or the grains, or your dairy if you're having it, or potentially you might need to substitute depending on what other dietary, where your other gaps are.
Yeah, and I love the way, I suppose, what we're doing right now is you're recommending food instead of supplements, as medicine, because food is medicine. The whole idea is a lot of people will be taking supplements, and the idea of a supplement is most certainly to supplement what you cannot get from your diet, because for the most part, people are not eating real foods. They're not cooking from scratch, and I suppose that's one of your whole ethoses, I suppose.
Yeah, so for example, with the joint pain was one of the symptoms of the menopause that I suffered with badly. And so what I do is I'll try and have oily fish most days. Maybe I'll have it 4 days a week. Then if I'm having things with lovely, good quality extra virgin olive oil delivered over the salad, I'm happy with that. But if there's a day that I don't, I'll then supplement with the omega-3. So that's the way I personally work things. Food first, and then supplement after if I feel my diet isn't rich enough in each of the different nutrients that I need.
Yeah, and that's, I suppose, for the most part, the way people should treat their, I suppose, overall health. Eating as many single ingredient foods as you possibly can. And I find a lot of the time people are under eating breakfast, they're under eating lunch, and then they tend to binge eat at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's all about planning. There's a planner you can download that I have you can set up your week's planning, and on the back of it there's a shopping list. So if you plan, it takes away the stress of what's for dinner. I mean, if you've got young kids and teens, and that question can just cause so much stress for people at the end of a busy day, if you have it all planned out there and you've done your shopping, you can just quickly go in and make a quick meal, or if that's the day you're taking a meal from the freezer or whatever it might be, but just sit down and plan things to make sure that you are getting the full array of colored vegetables and fruit and whole grain and protein that you need for the whole week. So planning can really help.
And I suppose touching on that there, the likes of that course that you're currently doing with people, it's a 6-week based menopause cooking course. Could you further expand on that and what that involves? I suppose telling the listeners a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So the idea is that it's like if you know a storm is coming, you're going to batten down the hatches and be prepared. So from 40 onwards, if you're a woman, perimenopause is going to come knocking on your door. So be prepared. So the idea with this is that you want to eat a healthy, balanced diet and have a really good lifestyle. So what I do is I break it down into 6 weeks. And say, for example, the first week, it's about eating for brain health. So I will talk about the nutrients that are necessary for brain health. And then I will explain the foods that you might get it from, and then the recipes from there, so that you can kind of go, okay, I need something for brain health. Great, I'm going to do this aubergine, walnut, and lentil ragu. That's going to give me all the nutrients I need for that. You can look at the foods that you like and don't like, and you can kind of say, okay, well, I'm a bit weak perhaps on the food for brain health. Maybe I could make a few small changes, etc. So what I do is each week I go through that, and then I will cook 4 dishes in real time. So it'll vary from breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. I mean, you get a whole ebook with it, and there's over 75 different recipes in that ebook. So it's really eating for healthy for the whole family. It's not just for menopause. So the first week is eating for brain health. Then we've got eating for inflammation and joint stiffness, eating for immunity, eating for mood, heart health, and eating for the overall health. That's where I would take in a lot of sleep and excuse me, sleep and reducing stress, etc. So each of those weeks, you get all of the information related to that week, and then I cook the recipes in real time, and you have the ebook. Plus, I give loads of links to professionals. I mentioned about, dietitians and nutritional therapists and other professionals, physios, etc. Within that field. I will then share their professional content, so you're armed with loads of information in the one place, so you can go on that.
Yeah, I see on your Instagram, you most certainly would share people's podcasts. Are there any particular individuals that you recommend people to check out?
Ooh, okay, so you're putting me on the spot. Well, I do love Dr. Chatterjee in the UK. I think he's brilliant. Also, let me see. Sorry, I have to have a quick look on which
You're
ones
okay,
I
I'm
was
after
going.
catching you on the hop. Yeah, no, Dr. Rotten Chatterjee. It's a difficult name for me to say. Never mind spell. He has a great
Yes,
podcast. He has.
he is. And also Louise Newsom, her podcast and her app, etc., is fantastic source of information for menopause. There's so many different bits and pieces there. So that can be really helpful. Then you've got Midlife Feast. Dr. Jen Salib Huber. She's based in the Netherlands at the moment, but she's a Canadian dietitian. She's fantastic as well. Yeah, so you'll have to look at the different ones there's so many that
I know. I
listen
just said if there was one that popped to mind, I didn't want to catch you out. That's it. I have you. You're done. Another one actually who's very similar to Dr. Rotten Chatterjee is the fact of Dr. Rupy. Have you ever come across him? Doctor's Kitchen.
Yes.
I love him.
He's great as well.
Yeah, he's great. Do you know what I mean? Again, he's a whole food, holistic food is medicine kind of guy, similar to, I suppose, our both ethos to, I suppose, health.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic, and he's constantly putting content up there. He must have a great team with him, and he's got a really good app as well.
His app has just, I think, come out. He was just only coming back, I think, from his stag from America.
Okay, there you go.
I'd follow him fairly religiously. And I suppose the last thing, like, how do you make, I want you to give, I suppose, the listeners maybe 3 takeaway tips for making cooking healthy for, I suppose, whether they're listeners to this, whether they're male or female, making it simple for them. I love that recipe that you had up there very recently, the indeme, the recipe with the peas involved in the whole lot of it.
Yeah, so first of all is plan. You got to plan. So, and make it easy. So make one effort yield lots. So for example, that edamame pea and mint salad that I'll make one, and it'll do me for a couple of days. I can have it with the tuna or the mackerel the next day for my lunch. If I make, a curry, I'll make a large batch and I will put some in the freezer. So on the day that I'm really busy, I just take that straight out of the freezer. So plan would definitely be number 1. 2, in terms of try and shop in season, ideally organic and grow your own, which is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, buy local. It just drives me bonkers when I go into the supermarket and we are flying green beans from all over the world. Cook in season and eat a variety of fruit and vegetables, and take easy steps. I'm kind of throwing in an extra one, but maybe the next one I'd say is water. So water is so important. So if you can drink as much water as you can pretty much a day, front load in the morning. So take a couple of glasses first thing in the morning. That's the easiest way to do it. But a trick I learned recently that I wasn't fully aware of is don't drink within 20 minutes either side of eating a meal. So you want your I used to drink a lot of water while I'd eat, but you are diluting your digestive enzymes. So stop drinking before you eat your meal, and then only for after 20 minutes later, drink again. And actually, I've noticed a difference with it. I just feel a little bit better, whereas I used to drink so much water with a meal. So they'd probably be my 3 tips.
Geez, I'm definitely going to use that one myself, drinking more water before meals, and that definitely would get people to supposed to be fuller, and as a result of that, maybe not eating or tend to overeat, which can happen a lot of individuals. But yeah, I'll definitely be incorporating that one in.
Super.
Yeah, and I suppose I just want to finally wrap up, and I know that you certainly have a book coming up very soon. I want you to tell the listeners a little bit about that before we wrap it up.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, so not too sure on the timing of the book. It's depending on the publishing route, but we have Cook, Eat, Nourish is my ethos. So I'll show you how to cook, and then you will eat, and you will nourish yourself and all of those around you. So it's Cook, Eat, Nourish through menopause. So it's more or less what I've spoken about in the course, but it's going to be in one book with lots of photographs. You can see exactly how it's all going to turn out. They are simple, easy recipes, but the idea is you plan, you make one effort, yields lots, and you are empowered to nourish yourself and those around you. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, stay tuned for more, I suppose, info on the likes of Fiona's book. Yeah, Fiona, where would the best place for, I suppose, the listeners to either find out about you or your course that you have running at this moment in time?
Well, come on, my website is fionasfoodforlife.ie. And I guess on social, I'm probably most active on Instagram. Again, that's Fiona's Food for Life.
Brilliant. Well, I'll be tagging that up all on the likes of the show notes so people can go over it and directly contact you personally. Just I suppose that I'd like to say thanks so much for coming on, and yeah, sharing the positive message about how to improve your health, whatever age or symptoms you do currently have.
Super. Thank you very much for having me, Coleman, and best of luck with your book.
Thanks so much.